Hey everyone, I'm back in Los Angeles doing another edition of my true crime videos. And this next case is not very old actually. This happened like a year ago in a furniture store behind me. This poor girl, 24 years old, Brianna Kupfer, lost her life. We're on La Brea right now. And across the street over there is called the Croft House. Croft House is a designer furniture store, and it was on January 15th of 2022. A woman who was working in there, her name was Brianna Kupfer, she's only 24 years old, was murdered inside that store. Not just murdered though, she's 46, I'm reading this now, 46 stab force injuries according to the coroner's reports. 11 stab wounds to the chest, 2 in her abdomen, 1 to her pelvis, 7 to her arms. She was sliced at least 20 places in her body. Many of the stabbings were 5 inches deep. She died from exsanguination, drowning in her own blood. Her aorta, liver, lungs, and stomach were repeatedly penetrated by a sharp blade. This poor girl was working in there alone. There was some creepy guy kind of hanging around the front. She texted a friend of hers saying that there's a guy she gets a bad vibe from. And 20 minutes later, someone goes into the store and finds her dead. Now, the guy who did it, 30 minutes later, he was found on, they saw him on a 7-Eleven security camera. So they had an idea what he looked like. And they arrested him, basically, and passed subpoena. He already had a long criminal record. He was out on bond pending a trial for firing a flare gun into a moving vehicle with a child inside of it. But the trial kept getting delayed because of COVID, etc. He vandalized a car in Daly City, California. They arrested him. He resisted. He vandalized a police car. The guy is a freaking mental case, and yeah, that's a medical term. And anyway, they have him. I doubt that there's a trial. There probably won't be a trial because I don't think there's any doubt. But I don't know. I'm not following it because the whole thing makes me sick. Because that poor chick was just working, trying to get through life, going to school, trying to earn money, and this person comes in and ends her life. That's freaking sad. Rest in peace, Brianna. Would you call that a helter-skelter? All right, here we are at 870 North Vine Street in Hollywood. My car wash until a while ago, till it wasn't. This building is not the original building that stood here, I don't think. But the reason we're here was because in 1977, this was a film school, and it was owned by a man named Lawrence Merrick. And it was called the Lawrence Merrick Studios. God, look at that cool house. That is an awesome old Hollywood house. So, this parking lot, it was where the event took place. And as I said, I don't think that building was here in 1977. That's my guess. I'm going to just read this. Movie producer director Lawrence Merrick, maker of the documentary film Manson, based on the Charles Manson cult, was shot to death today at his film school in Hollywood by an unidentified assailant. The gunman escaped.
This time, you will be a witness right alongside of me.
Or anybody that would ever step in front of us, we'll be taken care of.
The single bullet tore tore through his back. He was shot in the back at 12:30 p.m. This was, again, January 26, 1977. The guy was hanging around and asked for him. They say he was hanging around actually for a couple of days and asked for him. He was a young man, about 20, dressed very funny, they say, wearing a yellow hat. He was a heavyset guy. He, as I said, he'd been asking for him actually, but nobody could really remember what he looked like. But he had been asking for Lawrence Merrick by name. So Lawrence Merrick finished, I guess, teaching his class, got to his car, and was approached by this guy. Now, there's nobody, no witnesses to it, but somebody did hear the pop. And he staggered into the office, went back inside and said, "I've been shot." One of his students said, "No, I think he's acting." And one of the other ones said, "No, I think he's been shot." And he did, that's when he said, "My God, Richard, I've been shot," to one of the people that was interviewed. "Look at my back." And he lifted up his shirt, and his shoe and as sure as shooting, right in the small of his back was a bullet hole. He was survived by his widow Joan and a son named, who was 4 years old. He was 50. He died a little bit later at Hollywood Presbyterian Hospital, which is where Clark Gable died, in Mo Howard. But the Manson film, a documentary based on the life of the Manson clan, was filmed during and after the 1970-71 trial of Manson. And so for a while it was thought that maybe, it might be related somehow, sort of a revenge killing, but it was proven later that it wasn't. So 1977, still an unsolved crime, Lawrence Merrick here in the Lawrence Merrick School. Parking lot. Probably not. It's a cool little neighborhood though. Well, it's a shithole now, but interesting things. About 2 blocks up is where Leslie Jordan was killed in a car accident. God, it stinks. You're going to see the shop where Karen Carpenter got her first professional set of drums. I'll duck away from that lady. Oh, if you look through, you know who I saw in that parking lot one time? I saw the guy from the little person from Bad Santa going into, that was my old CVS right there. And that black sound stage that you see over there, that tall building, that's where they made I Love Lucy. Actually the first 2 years were filmed somewhere else. The rest of it was filmed there. Not Desilu Studios. It was a Desilu production. Desilu Studios was elsewhere. But this is Stein Professional Drum Shop. This is where Karen got her first professional set of drums. And Gene Krupa, and Buddy Rich. And the old Holly Grove Orphanage, where Marilyn Monroe lived for a short period of time, even though she wasn't an orphan, was just over there. It's still social services right there, but that's old. The old Holly Grove. A portion of Marilyn's estate still benefits the Holly Grove. It's not an orphanage anymore, but social services. Mulholland Drive. Oh, let's stop here for a second. This is a pretty well-known dog park. That something terrible happened in that maybe a lot of people don't know. There it is, it's on there. I used to take Decker up here rarely because it was such a pain in the ass to get here. Now there's certain terminology that I have to use because certain words get flagged by YouTube and they say no to my videos, or they make them adult only. and that affects what I do. So I will show you something. I have to stop out for a second. So this is the dog park where the actor David Rappaport, Time Bandits. He was a little person, and little people often are unhappy and in pain because their organs don't grow at the same, speed or as their body goes. And David Rappaport was one of those people, and he chose to make himself unalive in this park. And I think it was back there in the bushes. Somebody told me many years ago, because it was several years ago. Somebody told me, yeah, you weren't way back there. I think it was up here where this bright green hedge is. Yeah, there used to be a house there, and was it mudslides or the Northridge earthquake? I think it was a mudslide, and that house literally slid down the hill. I got a picture of that too back whenever it happened, but it was this hillside right here. There was another location on my true crime murder tour, the Palomar Hotel, which somebody sunk a lot of money into. It took me a good 20 minutes to find a place to park around here. Never mind. But that's the Palomar Hotel. Now I think it's private residences, maybe condos, I'm not quite sure. And I also see that they covered they've taken down the fire escapes. But there was a fire bomb. One of the brothers who was the manager was fired, and he decided to set a fire here. And he started with, I think he had, I don't know how many gallons of gasoline. And he started in the basement by the furnace and worked his way backwards all the way to the top of the stairs. And the furnace ignited. And the whole place was up in flames. It's not funny, but the front doors exploded, and they made it all the way across the street here. People were dangling off the balconies. Firemen were trying to rescue people. There was a woman that handed her kids down to the fire people, saved the kids. She didn't make it out. They eventually got the guy, but it was pretty crazy, pretty dramatic. The Palomar Hotel. No fire escapes, that's interesting. Now another location, which used to have a really cool sign, now it doesn't anymore. They took it down for some God knows what reason. Was the Tiki Theater. I think it's the last straight adult theater left around here. And it's pretty grimy, as you'd expect inside. I've been in there once just to check it out. And this is the theater where Fred Willard was arrested for indecent exposure. And I think what happened was he was in there and they watched him, and he completed what he went in there to do. And then he came out and they arrested him, and they went back in to make sure it was like he finished what he was doing. I don't know. That's true. Fred Willard here. That's where he was arrested. And just over here, you see that tall sort of angled roof over there? Kind of narrowly angled roof. That is the last home of Schlitzie, the Pinhead. The last home of Schlitzie, the Pinhead. And the entrance is just behind that tree. And I think that, let's see, well, it makes sense. Would have lived upstairs. Oh, Google Earth just went by. I wonder if I'm going to be on the Earth cam. And if that's the case, I'm on Western at Oxford. I'm on Santa Monica Boulevard at Oxford, 5401 Santa Monica Boulevard. Maybe I'll check in a month. So from the Tiki Theater to the Palomar, and there's another curious location up here. Curious, as in kind of fun. So that's it, Secrets of Hollywood. And that is the movie location, a movie location from the movie 8mm with Nicolas Cage. This is where the adult novelty store or porno video store Joaquin Phoenix was working in the movie. There was a bar down there called the Black Light, and that was another one. The review, I think, was Be Afraid, Be Very Afraid. I went in there once with Larry. I think I went in there with another friend too. It was just over that way. The Black Light. That is the very definition of it. That is a dive hardly anyone went to. I loved it. That was when hookers were washing their feet in the bathrooms. This is another notorious location on Sunset Boulevard, the Olive Motel. Pretty well-known divey hotel. Passed it a million times. I'm glad it's still here because architecturally it's so cute. But it was a room number 5 on June 4th, 2007, that Raven Gomez was strangled by her boyfriend. Not a boyfriend. Raven was a popular girl on the streets. Her boyfriend's name was Gilton Petrie, who was a convicted drug dealer, and he did terrible things to women against their will. He killed her in here, room number 5, wrapped her in a comforter after he strangled her, and then dumped her in an alley behind the El Cid just down the street. I think it's a 2-star hotel. So he was out on parole for just a couple of days when he picked Raven up and took her to this motel. And killed her. Well, this was the location of the infamous Bates Motel. It's been closed for probably decades. They boarded it up. Some artist painted it all white, including all these palm trees were painted all white. And then finally, somebody bought it and knocked it down. It was a charming little hotel, but in a shitty neighborhood, and I'm sure shitty things happened in it, and the Bates Hotel is gone. I think I have pictures of it. Now, over this way, you can see where that McDonald's is. And to the left of that McDonald's is a place called Solutions. And to the left of that is a place called Junkyard Dog. And if you look at that sign that's painted on it, that was the cover of an Elliott Smith record album, probably a CD. And that squiggly pattern, he shows up on that, and that's become a shrine to him. They have painted that thing over probably dozens of times. I think it's even smaller, a smaller version of what it used to be. And in fact, they may have cut a door into it. I don't remember. I took a couple pictures of it many moons ago. But that Elliott Smith was pictured on an album cover. His picture was taken right in front of that place, and that's become an Elliott Smith shrine. It's got all that crap written in it on the front of it. And then this was where the Bates Motel was. And as I just told you about that woman, 15-year-old girl who was murdered at the Olive Motel, well, it says that her body was dumped behind the El Cid restaurant, which is over there on the right. Now, the El Cid, we actually had one of our Death Hag events in that place. It is such a cool old restaurant. The entrance is up here, but you have to go down a steep set of stairs to get to it. And I think they did flamenco shows there, and they do murder, dinners and things like that. Spanish cuisine. They used to be, when it first opened, was a jail cell restaurant. It was themed like a jail. But it was cool to have an event down there. I remember Indiana Bones, who was the coroner's sniffing dog, corpse finding dog. My friend Jane Osborne arranged it so Katrina and Indiana Bones could come and do a little demonstration. But that place is neat. So that 15-year-old, see, now it's a hilltop, so I'm not quite sure about the alley behind it. Nah, I can't. It's too dangerous. Oh, you know what, though? I was over here. There's a bar up there that I used to hang out with my friend Dead Larry called The Detour. We spent many Sunday afternoons in The Detour. And one time we came out and there was a lot of police. I would say, I don't know. You see where that beige building is? Right in front of it, coming in this direction. There was an accident. And it was Keanu Reeves actually got into a motorcycle accident one Sunday afternoon. I probably saved the article from it. But here's the El Cid. So yeah, as you go in the door, and it's actually a staircase, a little rickety staircase down there, and there's a beautiful patio, and then you go in and there's a room with a theater. It's a very cool place. I heard rumors that it was shutting down, but it's still here. So as I mentioned, that hotel with the, you can see with those white trees down at the end of the road, that's where I just was, and that's where that Bates Motel was. And it was literally on Bates Street. So this is, you can see the sign, Bates Street here. Now, I think that might have been a good sign for Alfred Hitchcock. Because when Alfred Hitchcock made Family Plot, his last movie, he actually chose a house at the foot of Bates Street. And it's these little bungalows that Hitchcock used in his last movie. I'm not sure if it was Karen Black that lived in here in that movie, but I think so. I think Karen Black lived in this building in that movie, and she came out and spoke to someone I think was parked right here, and said, your friend Blanche Tyler is a spiritualist. So Hitchcock, Family Plot, was filmed right here, and Bates Street.
Your friend Blanche Tyler is a spiritualist.
A spiritualist?
That's what it says on her shingle. Also, there's no one home.
I'm glad I'm remembering these places, actually, because I don't know when I'll ever get back here again. But you see that sign, it says Bukowski Court right there. Charles Bukowski, the famous writer, used to live in that unit right there. And this one, I mean, they actually had the bulldozers out here. They were gonna rip the whole thing down. And somehow, some way, it got changed. or that, the plan changed. But that was his address, 5124 Charles Bukowski. Ask me how I know the address. I can't tell you, but I do. There's a new doorbell on it too. But yeah, as I said, this was the bulldozers were here, and that thing was coming down, and somehow it got a reprieve. Barfly. I think he made a documentary in there, a really low budget documentary, and his wife was in it. And it was not a nice relationship. It was pretty ugly. So Bukowski, right there. This next story I call the Pink Elephant Murder. You might wonder why. Wonder no more. The Pink Elephant Liquor Store. I don't even know how long this has been here, but this is one of those places that Bukowski people like to point out that Charles Bukowski used to get. I can't imagine it's an exclusive location for him getting his liquor anywhere, but Bukowski used to use it, and whatever. Oh, and look at that. That's Immaculate Heart School. Meghan Markle, Mary Tyler Moore, and Lucy Arnaz, the acting goddess. The Pink Elephant Murder. At 2 p.m. on December 7, 2007, police responded to a call about a suspicious individual who was seen hanging around this place with a suitcase. The police looked around the premises and happened to check the dumpster. Inside the dumpster, they found a black backpack and a purple cloth bag. Opening one of the bags, police found the partially dismembered remains of a male African-American adult. The body had been decapitated. Both arms were severed below the elbows. Both legs were severed at the groin. Both hands were cut from the forearms at the wrist. Both feet severed at the ankles. The head and the thighs were missing. Also in the bag, a kitchen blender and a radio. The next day, an employee from the Rite Aid drugstore, which has been recently demolished, made an equally horrific discovery. The head and thighs of the victim were found in a dumpster behind the store, each wrapped in a separate black double-knotted garbage bag. Detectives were stumped until 2 days later when a call came in. A housekeeper at a nearby halfway house boarding 90 people with mental issues and recent parolees, and she reported an alarming find. She discovered blood and signs of a struggle in the room of a 21-year-old tenant, Frank Ruiz. Ruiz wasn't home that day because he was arrested for parole violation. The housekeeper found what appeared to be meat in plastic shopping bags, and what turned out to be human remains in the frying pan. Ruiz was arrested for stabbing and dismembering the 47-year-old fellow resident, Patrick Moore. He admitted to stabbing the victim in the throat and cutting up the body to try to conceal the crime. That about does it for True Crime Tour number 3. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. I hope you get something out of these stories. I started to say enjoy, but people do enjoy it, truth be told, right? From the parking lot where the dumpster is of the Pink Elephant Liquor Store, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm heading back to the desert now.
You heard me.